Greetings Austin. We are anonymous. We stand up for those who are weak and have been wronged by those who are powerful. There has been quite a stir by a video we posted on Thanksgiving. Now you are going to hear the rest of the story. There are hundreds of thousands of members of Anonymous around the world. You can be assured that someone that you know most likely has ties to our group. We have access to thousands of gigabytes of information and thousands of informants. We are structured so that we can get information from individuals without them even being aware that they have given it, without them even saying a word to us. That is what happened in this instance. That is what makes us so great and powerful of an organization. We were approached and told of Jose's situation and how unjust it was by someone who cared about him. But we were also made aware of instances where he was unjust to innocent people who trusted him. In dealing with Jose's situation, this operation had to be undertaken very carefully. After months of careful research and covert operations, we gathered the information we needed. The problem was that we could not just come out and say, hey, there is a sexual offender that is innocent. That would have been ignored by everyone but his close friends. You see, there is a problem with rushing to judgment, even in a community that is still being persecuted today. You can see that by some of the comments and likes on our last video. They saw the evidence, presumed it to be fact, and staunchly supported it without taking the time to consider the fact that there might be another side of the story. So in order to get the maximum attention to what we are about to say in the second portion of this announcement, we had to shock the community into being made aware of the facts. In doing so, the situation was very controlled. Some of our operatives actually know Jose very personally, are around him regularly, and were monitoring the situation very closely to ensure that he was never in danger at any time. We will not disclose our members, but be assured that we will continue to watch out for him in protection very closely. Also, Brian Nixon did not interfere with our mission. He simply gave us a new route to launch the first phase. Any retaliation against him will be dealt with appropriately. This is surely a dark spot in Jose's life that he attempts to conceal out of shame. But it is still an injustice that he has to live with for the rest of his life. Unless it is corrected and his name is cleared and taken off the Texas sexual offenders list. To bring attention, someone has to play the bad guy, bring the issue into light to be dealt with, and shock the issue into a controversy to make people aware of it. If you have a broken bone that heals wrong, you don't just leave it alone. The doctors have to go in and re-break it. That is what we have done. We calculated that once the light was shined on this situation, Jose's friends would rush in to defend him and that the truth would come out, not by a distant organization, but by those who were personally familiar with the situation. That is what is needed to make a difference. And that is what happened. We will get to that later. This operation was done for two reasons. First, to point out an injustices and hypocrisies that are occurring in the LGBT community that are only dividing and not uniting. Many have argued that we should have gotten all the facts before we rushed to a decision. We had all the facts. We just presented half of them. This is because in our investigation we discovered that there were a few instances where Jose himself turned people away and cast them out. Innocent people. His fellow brothers and sisters who were going through rough times, and in a few instances being persecuted. When Jose was fully aware of their circumstances, he rushed to a judgment, neglected to realize that when others are under duress they might be close to a nervous breakdown. Not because they are crazy, but because they are under duress and need support. But in several instances we have seen communications from others that Jose not only turned his back on them and distanced himself from them, he also told half-truths about how they were acting without giving the other side of the story that told what they were going through, which would have put the entire situation in a completely different context. In doing so, Jose caused others to be isolated, adding to their torment. As you, The Austin LGBT community presumed you had been told the entire story and judged them and distanced yourselves from them in mass, adding to their torment and their persecution. We felt that this should be exposed, and the first part of our mission was to give Jose a taste of his own medicine, so that he knew what it felt like to have facts without the true background story presented. Jose, you know what pain is, you know what it is like to be tortured, but you must let that bitterness and mistrust go and be a light to those who are going through excruciating pain and loneliness. In that way you defeat those who persecuted you. Otherwise, you simply become like them. You have the opportunity to make a difference in others' lives, to be the hope and compassion in the lives of others who might be full of mistrust and seem like they lash out. You have the opportunity to be that lighthouse of love and understanding that peels away their bitterness over the months or years and brings out their love to share for others. But if you do not let yourself, then those who persecuted you have won. There are others who are alone, suffering, crying out, and only know how to act in fear, but do not enjoy the love and protection you do. You owe it to those who love and protect you to extend that love and protection to them. Otherwise, you are no better than those who wronged you. To everyone else, perhaps you are a community that can tell outsiders apart from yourselves. But you are also a refuge, a community that is supposed to be open-minded in the midst of a conservative and close-minded area. How dare you rush to judgment and isolate your own brothers and sisters based on rumors? People are fallible, and rather than taking others' words as fact, treat them with love and empathy. It can take months for someone who is tortured from persecution based on their sexuality to gain trust again, even when showered in love and acceptance. And if they are greeted by isolation and distance from their own community, the hate and bitterness can engulf them the same way that it engulfs your persecutors. You defend Jose and call this unjust, yet at the same time there are those that you have done the same thing to by only looking at the facts presented and neglecting to treat them with love and acceptance and taking the time to listen to their story. They are turned away and shunned when they should be brought in, accepted, and loved despite their faults. These actions have only served to divide your community, and a house divided cannot stand, but a house united cannot fall. Therefore, we do not regret the first phase of our mission. Jose was powerful with the support of his friends, but in several instances he turned away, shunned, and told facts that were true, although only half of the story, about those who were weak and vulnerable, putting them in a negative light that they did not deserve. Those who, as Alejandro Herrera said when describing Jose, were tortured and innocent. As we have stated before, we defend the weak against the powerful, and thus, Jose has been placed at the receiving end of his own actions, and other injustices done by your own community have been exposed. In the same way, it is an injustice that your community gathered around to support Jose, yet we know for fact, from reviewing several forms of communications, that some of you who have communicated in the comments and in private communications with us, have distanced from others who were weak and expected them to be able to deal with their suffering alone. This is not right, and again, only serves to weaken your community and your cause. You are only as strong as your weakest link, and by isolating them and leaving them weak to suffer alone without close friends who are like them and who can accept them, you remain as weak as you leave them. That is shameful on your part. No one deserves to be alone, whether in Austin or elsewhere. We will be watching closely from here on out, and if this behavior continues, be assured, it will be called out. In the fight for equality, we cannot stand by and permit attacks on your own to risk ruining the reputation of your cause. It is not right for your community to be selective on which members get mercy and compassion and which members are shunned in the same manner as your persecutors shun you. Let this be a lesson learned. There are many other messages, chats, and texts that we have observed from many others who have been shunned by your community, and as a result have suffered further losses of trust, and their pain and suffering has been multiplied. Some you may suspect, some you may not, some are in Austin and some are not, but be very aware that if we continue seeing them communicate about being isolated and judged, we will respond once again, with the same mercy, compassion, acceptance, and empathy which you have afforded them. None. You have been warned. Let love guide your motives instead of suspicion. You have seen what happens when it does not. Now that we have discussed the side issues, let's get to the root of our cause. Jose, even though you have not done the same with others, we will afford you the compassion of telling the world the other side of the story that you have denied to others who were innocent. As we have stated before, We had to shine a very uncomfortable light to bring attention from both those who are open-minded, at least to certain situations, and to bring attention to those who rush to judgment. Now that we have everyone's attention, we will present an injustice where the powerful rush to presumption without proof and have seriously damaged a member of your community's reputation. As so, while we spoke against him in his errors, we now come in his defense. Those familiar with his situation have spoken out while he was being opposed. Carter Smith stated, "That charge is total bullshit and is because there is a psycho person in his family that just didn't want to accept that he was gay and immediately thought because he's gay he is molesting her kid." Anthony Carter stated further, "Also, I can confirm the truth of the reality behind the charges, and seeing as you all are organizing to protect gays victimized by prosecution, what say you now when it's established that the charges were filed by an unreliable, homophobic family member? This is much more powerful coming from members of the community than being stated by a distant group shrouded in anonymity. Those of you who saw our last video and immediately liked it or stated that because it was shown as fact it must be true and jumped to a conclusion should be ashamed of yourselves. You let words printed on a screen make up your mind for you what was true, when in fact those who typed those words, the government, have admitted in the past that they have lied and deceived on several occasions. You owe it to yourselves, to Jose, and to your community to reach out and support and right your wrong. We can confirm that Jose Medrano is a man who was persecuted because of his sexuality. He is an undocumented citizen brought here as a minor through no fault of his own. Because he was gay, a homophobic person in his family accused him of molesting another child in his family, under the homophobic reasoning that gays are dangerous child molesters. This was an attack against him and the entire LGBT community. While he should be covered by the DREAM Act, he instead is a convicted felon with a severe stain on his record that is available publicly. He was attacked not only by his family, but also by the government simply because he had the courage to come out. Instead of being a contribution to society, he is stuck in the shadows because he dared to be gay. His life is full of struggles unmentionable because he has this burden of a lie that he must carry. We demand that the Texas court system evaluate his case and clear his name, and that the LGBT community across Texas stands up and demands justice, in the form of releasing suspicion from an innocent man punished for being gay. This is the heart of Operation Independence Day, to wake up the community, by shocking if we must, expose the dark crimes against the LGBT community, and to bring them to the light of day. We demand that the Houston courts reevaluate his case and clear his name. We call upon the LGBT community to rally and support his cause. As if this stands, then it is an indictment against you. We will not rest until his name is cleared. But on the other hand, we also will not rest until the wrongful judgments of your community are corrected and those shunned without cause or empathy are welcomed and brought into your fold. We are prepared to go to any length to ensure that our demands are met and that all the wrongs we have exposed are made right. In your fight for equality, you must show those who oppress you that you are one. If you cannot stand and fight for Jose's name to be cleared, and you cannot clear the names of those that you have yourselves rushed to judge and leave isolated and alone, then you are indeed weak. We have exposed many atrocities to the light. If we do not see corrections made on all of them, then we will take any action needed to push corrections into action. You are the people. We can only do so much. You must now take on the torch, correct yourselves, and correct injustices. This is the only way you will gain true freedom. Organize yourselves. Create a page on Facebook. Stage protests. Speak out and make sure this injustice is heard loud and clear. Take responsibility in defending your brother and do something to right this wrong. If Michael Brown's friends and supporters can speak out so loudly in his defense, then you should be able to bring as much attention to an innocent man that you call a friend, who must suffer for the rest of his life for something he didn't do unless you do something to intervene. Finally, hear us out very clearly. If you suspect one of your own is behind this, you are very wrong. If you retaliate against anyone you know, you will be attacking an innocent person. Though some of our information was gained from people you may know, they were not aware that they were volunteering it. We operate by absolute secrecy. through hacking, spoofing IP addresses, and at times making it appear as if something is coming from someplace it is not. This operation was approved and conducted by Ananops directly. We apologize for using so many smoke screens, but you can thank law enforcement for showing us that at times that is needed to hurt those who would rush to judgment into the same area as those who would be instantly accepting to what is being said. You are one. United you stand. Divided you fall. Now stand and act appropriately. Let freedom ring. Let the white dove sing. Let the whole world know that today is a day of reckoning. Let the weak be strong. Let the right be wrong. Roll the stone away. Let the guilty pay. It's Independence Day.
We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget.